After the Americans and the Israelis launched an attack on Iran, what we saw is Iran responding in the only way that it could. It's launched ballistic missiles against Israel, but also against US bases and other nations in the Gulf, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, even Oman. So Iran has retaliated in these strikes. What capabilities does it have? It's long built up a large stock of ballistic missiles. It's thought to have about 2,500 at the start of the conflict, and then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cheap or relatively cheap drones, particularly of the sort of well-known and distinctive Shahed 136, this delta wing type low buzzing craft that plunge with terrifying effect. Meanwhile, the Americans and the Israelis are trying to suppress those defenses, knock out what are often deep-lying launch sites that the Iranians have. And so what we'd expect to see is the Iranian ability to launch ballistic missiles dwindle over time, and it's unclear whether it can keep this effort going beyond a few more days.
Right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that.
A longer conflict would present Iran with some real military challenges. It's unlikely to have ballistic missiles to last a very long time. Its supply of drones might be greater because they're cheaper, easier to manufacture. A Shahed 136 costs something like $50,000. But even so, its capability to sort of counterstrike is going to be diminished. Iran still possesses a relatively sizable military, so like 130,000 as regular army, 350,000 I think when you add in conscripts. Plus there's the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, perhaps another 200,000. These are large numbers. I mean, how cohesive its military or its ground forces would be after several weeks of bombing or several days of bombing is unclear. One of Iran's options is to try and enforce some kind of closure of the Straits of Hormuz, through which about a fifth of the world's crude oil passes every day, and impose economic costs on the US, on the West, and on regional countries. Iran's been able to do that partly by scaring merchant shipping, crude oil tankers. There have been some isolated drone incidents. Tankers and ships have been hit. And they've also been attacking an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia and managed to close the gas export terminal in Qatar. At what point do you stop if your opponent is frankly flat out on the canvas and doesn't have much more to offer? This is going to become most likely a disconcertingly one-sided fight, and perhaps will only end when Donald Trump wants to stop it.